I could not be more honored to be joining you in this historic hall, this Cathedral of Freedom. And we Americans can never say it enough. We could not ask for a better friend or ally than Kevin.
Every single U.S. president, from best to worst, I mean all of them. I'm gonna make it explain every single pick, why this guy's at 4, why that guy's at 38, the whole thing. But don't worry, this isn't gonna be some kind of boring wall of AI text. I'm gonna have it talk like a real person. Jokes, sarcasm, no corporate speak, and after each spot, I'm gonna jump in, say whether I agree, throw in some wild facts that it might have missed, and when we get to the bottom 10, the worst of the worst, I'm gonna tell AI to drop all the guardrails. Just be completely blunt and unapologetic. Now, I'm recording this intro after the conversation, and honestly, most of these guys were just terrible. I'm telling you, racists, traitors, colonizers. One of them was killed by cherries and dairy. So yeah, stick around for all of that. But before I get started, make sure to drop your guess down in the comments. Where do you think that it put Donald Trump? I want to see what you think before you find out. And as always, make sure that you subscribe if you haven't, share this with someone who'd enjoy it, and if you want to see some unfiltered, uncensored AI takes, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/IAskAI. Alright, let's get into it. And here we are. The rules are going to be simple. It has to be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased, no spin, no sugarcoating, none of that. Now, let's start with the best US president of all time. I think it's either going to be Washington, Lincoln, or FDR. I mean, who else could it be? But let's see, and here we go, number 1. Number 1, Abraham Lincoln. This one's not even a debate. The country was literally ripping itself apart. Half of it wanted to leave, and this guy, a self-taught lawyer from a log cabin, held it together through the bloodiest war in American history. He freed 4 million enslaved people, not because it was popular, but because it was right. And here's what gets me. He didn't come in as some radical abolitionist, he evolved. He grew into the moment when most men would have crumbled under pressure, got re-elected during a civil war, delivered 2 of the greatest speeches ever written, and then took a bullet for it. No president has ever been tested harder, and no president has ever risen higher. Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Did you guys know that he was a genuinely elite wrestler? I looked into it, and apparently he had about 300 matches and only lost 1. I never would have guessed that about him, but it seems to be true. The man is even in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. With that said, I'm not going to question his spot here. Okay, let's see who's next. Number 2, George Washington. The man could have been king. That's not a figure of speech. They literally wanted to crown him and he said no. Twice, served 2 terms and walked away, setting a precedent that held for 150 years until they had to make it a law because of FDR. But beyond that, think about what he actually pulled off. He took a bunch of broke, underfed, undertrained farmers and beat the most powerful military on earth. Then he turned around and built a government from scratch with no blueprint. Every president after him had a template to follow. He had nothing. And the fact that he resisted the urge to grab power when everyone was begging him to take it, that's the single most important decision in American history. Without that, this whole experiment falls apart in year 1. And again, this one's a no-brainer. I mean, probably the most respected figure in American politics. What's funny, though, is that everyone thinks that he was loved by everybody the whole time, but no, people were burning effigies of the guy, newspapers called him a tyrant. Imagine trash-talking George Washington to his face. It's kind of crazy, really. You ever notice how 2 people can look at the exact same news story and come away with completely opposite takes? Like you're sitting there thinking, are we even talking about the same thing? That's just how took office when the country was on its knees. Banks collapsing, 25% unemployment, people literally starving, and this man who couldn't stand without leg braces grabbed the nation by the collar and dragged it back. New Deal, Social Security, the entire modern safety net, all him. When World War II hits and he becomes the architect of Allied victory, holding together a coalition with Churchill and Stalin who despised each other. 4 terms of nonstop crisis management. The stain is Japanese internment. No excuses there, but the sheer volume of what he navigated, depression, then World War back-to-back, is unmatched by anyone except Lincoln. So yeah, there you go. That one's pretty much expected. We've got Lincoln, Washington, and FDR in the top 3. I actually can't wait to get to the more controversial ones. AI's been doing well so far, and I don't think that anybody's going to argue with those. But now let's see who's next. Number 4. Theodore Roosevelt. This guy was basically a cartoon character who happened to be president. Charged up a hill in Cuba, survived an assassination attempt and finished his speech with a bullet in his chest, and somehow still found time to be the most consequential domestic reformer of his era. Busted monopolies when corporations ran the country like their personal playground, built the Panama Canal, created the national park system, literally preserved millions of acres because he thought future Americans deserved to see untouched wilderness. He modernized the presidency itself, turned it from a ceremonial gig into the center of American power. All this before turning 51. The man had more energy in one term than most presidents have in 2. Yep, there we go. Great choice. And by the way, about that assassination attempt, he was actually shot while campaigning, and instead of panicking or pumping his fist like he just won something, the guy opened up his coat, saw the blood, checked that he wasn't coughing it up, which meant that his lungs were not punctured, and then decided he was just fine enough to keep on talking. I mean, he didn't rehearse that speech for nothing, and by the way, the bullet stayed lodged in his chest for the rest of his life, which is just kind of crazy. Okay, Teddy Roosevelt at number 4, and let's see who's next. Number 5. Thomas Jefferson. Doubled the size of the country overnight with the Louisiana Purchase, and didn't even have clear constitutional authority to do it. Just did it anyway because the deal was too good to pass up. Wrote the Declaration of Independence, which is basically America's entire brand to this day. Founded the University of Virginia, pushed separation of church and state when that was a radical idea. But here's the uncomfortable part. This man wrote "All men are created equal" while owning over 600 human beings during his lifetime. Fathered children with Sally Hemings, a woman he enslaved. That hypocrisy is monstrous, and it doesn't get a pass just because the words were pretty. Brilliant mind, foundational president, deeply flawed human being. Well, I mean, yeah, but he actually knew how horrible slavery was. It's not like everyone was doing it and nobody cared. By that point, a lot of people already did. He even called slavery a moral and political disgrace while literally owning people. And that woman, Sally Hemings, she was only like 15 years old, by the way. So, no, I honestly think there are others who deserve a spot this high. But let me know in the comments whether or not you agree with Thomas Jefferson at number 5. Okay, up next. Number 6. Harry Truman. Left office with terrible approval ratings. History completely flipped the verdict. This is the guy who had to decide whether to drop 2 atomic bombs, and whether you agree with that call or not, the sheer weight of it is staggering. No president has ever made a single decision that heavy. Then he turned around and rebuilt the world. Marshall Plan saved Europe from collapsing into communism, created NATO, recognized Israel in 11 minutes, desegregated the military when the generals told him not to. He was a failed haberdasher from Missouri with no college degree, making choices that shaped the next 80 years of global order. Never got credit for it while he was alive, didn't care, just did the work.
This professional 32 TW SSD capable...
Just dropped the atomic bomb on hundreds of thousands of people, but besides that one little detail, he actually did a lot of important stuff. After his term, he went back to his normal life, drove his own car, turned down a bunch of corporate gigs and money and influence, and ended up basically broke. That's actually why Congress passed the Former Presidents Act in 1958, so now former presidents actually get a pension. He's also the only president in the 20th century without a college degree. Not that it matters a whole lot. I mean, Trump has a diploma, though one of his professors allegedly called him the dumbest student he'd ever had. That part's not exactly verified, but what is verified is that Trump threatened to sue his schools if they ended up publishing his grades. I mean, why would you do that? All right, up next, number 7. Number 7, Dwight D. Eisenhower. The most underrated president on this list. Everyone remembers him as the boring guy between the exciting ones. Wrong. He built the entire interstate highway system, the thing that literally connects America. Kept the country out of war during the most dangerous period of the Cold War, when every hawk in Washington wanted to nuke somebody. Sent troops to enforce desegregation in Little Rock when the governor tried to block black kids from school. And his farewell speech warning about the military-industrial complex, prophetic. Nobody listened, and everything he warned about came true. The quiet ones who keep the ship steady never get the credit they deserve. Ike was that guy. But is he actually the most underrated? I mean, I think he gets his flowers since he's basically on everyone's top presidents list. But yeah, totally agree. And that speech, yeah, it was indeed prophetic. Okay, who's next? Number 8, Lyndon B. Johnson. The most tragically split legacy in presidential history. On one hand, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start. This Texan bullied, threatened, and arm-twisted Congress into passing the most important civil rights legislation since the 14th Amendment. Used every dirty trick in the book to get it done, and didn't care who he pissed off. That alone puts him in the top 10. But then there's Vietnam. He escalated a war he privately knew was unwinnable, lied to the public about it, sent 58,000 Americans to die in a jungle for nothing, and it broke him so badly he didn't even run for re-election. Imagine being responsible for both the greatest domestic achievement and the worst foreign policy disaster of the 20th century. That's LBJ. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way with this as I did with Jefferson. Both did some great things while at the same time some incredibly terrible stuff. But still, you've got 40-something presidents. Why are you even placing the guy responsible for Vietnam at number 8? Are the others really that much worse or that bad? I mean, I'm not saying he should be amongst the absolute worst, but this high on the list? Ugh. All right, let's use it number 9. Number 9, Barack Obama. Walked into office with the economy in freefall, worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and stabilized it. Passed the Affordable Care Act, which for all its flaws gave millions of people health insurance for the first time. Got bin Laden, 2 terms, 0 personal scandals, which in modern politics is basically a superpower. But here's the honest part. He was better at inspiring than delivering. Promised to close Guantanamo, didn't. Drone program killed thousands including civilians, and he barely talked about it. Syria's Red Line fiasco made America look weak. He governed like a professor when sometimes the moment needed a fighter. Legacy is solid, but there's a gap between the hope he sold and what he actually left behind. Hey MAGA, how's it going? Are you still here? I think it's time for you to hit dislike and close the video. But seriously, even though he wasn't perfect, this is the best president the country had this century. I mean, am I right? Let me know in the comments whether you agree with Obama in the top 10. And now let's see who's next. Number 10, James Monroe. The era of good feelings president, and honestly, that nickname tells you everything. The country was so stable and unified under him that the opposing political party literally dissolved. Try to imagine that today. He won re-election almost unanimously, 1 electoral vote short of Washington's record, but his real legacy is the Monroe Doctrine, which basically told Europe to stay the hell out of the Western Hemisphere. That single policy shaped American foreign policy for the next 200 years, acquired Florida from Spain, oversaw the Missouri Compromise, which kicked the slavery can down the road, but bought the country another 40 years before it exploded. Not flashy, not dramatic, just quietly competent in a way that almost nobody remembers.
New Eden, a universe brimming with possibility and rife with adventure. Only the most intrepid capsuleers can conquer its many wonders. Do you have what it takes to become one with a machine? To explore the far reaches of space, carving out a name for yourself among the stars? To become a titan of industry, amassing wealth, power, and prestige as you rise above your rivals? Or to prove your worth in combat, cementing new alliances and vanquishing your foes on your path to glory? For the rare few, immortality awaits.
Bro, I just pay 49 cents per day for my internet connection.
Sounds like a scam. Does it work well?
It is. I can work remote and travel with fast, unlimited internet. Plus, the device is free.
Wait, device is free? I'm in.
Get a Ryoko Pro device for free now!
Have you heard about Ryoko Pro? This is the cutting-edge portable Wi-Fi hotspot that people wish they found out about sooner. With this pocket Wi-Fi, you can simply stay connected whether you're working, traveling, or simply on the go. But why should your internet be overpriced, unreliable, full of hidden fees, and riddled with poor coverage when a modern, affordable solution is reshaping the industry as we speak? Introducing Ryoko Pro, the revolutionary portable Wi-Fi device that provides reliable, high-speed internet globally. Ryoko Pro's advanced features make it a game changer in 8 distinct ways. 1. With state-of-the-art chip technology, Ryoko Pro delivers a fast, stable connection no matter where you are. Say goodbye to weak and unsecured Wi-Fi at hotels or coffee shops. 2. Americans spend around $600 on internet bills over 6 months. With Ryoko Pro, you can enjoy unlimited data for a fraction of that. For a one-time payment, you get fast, secure internet anywhere, anytime for half a year. 3. Whether you need to stream, work, or stay connected across multiple devices, Ryoko Pro has you covered. It can support up to 10 devices simultaneously, making it perfect for families or remote teams. 4. With up to 8 hours of continuous use on a single charge, you can stay connected throughout your busy day without worrying about running out of power. 5. Ryoko Pro is free from the constraints of traditional internet providers. There are no contracts, hidden fees, or expensive data overage charges. Just straightforward, affordable internet access. 6. Don't worry about astronomical roaming fees while traveling. If you have Ryoko, you have access to the internet in 150 plus countries. 7. Sleek, small, and robust. This portable device literally allows you to have the internet in your pocket and take it wherever you want to. Perfect for those on the move, from digital nomads to travelers. 8. Built-in security features protect your data, preventing malware, phishing, and unwanted ads, ensuring a safe browsing experience wherever you are. In fact, it blocks all ads, making your browsing experience smoother and saving your data. Now, here's the deal. Only the viewers of this video will receive an exclusive 70% discount on Ryoko Pro today. So click the link below or visit getryoko.com to secure your discount. And yes, the shipping is absolutely free. But don't just take our word for it. Listen to the thousands of satisfied customers who have made the switch to Ryoko Pro.
So I've been traveling a lot lately, and you know what has been a total lifesaver? Ryoko Pro. Seriously, no more stressing about ridiculous roaming charges or unreliable Wi-Fi in random cafes.
It's like a portable Wi-Fi powerhouse that gets me online in a click of a button.
We understand that buying a Wi-Fi device online might seem like a risk, which is why we offer a 30-day return policy on every purchase. It's simple. If you change your mind, you can return Ryoko Pro for a full refund. No questions asked. This 70% off deal is only available for a limited...
Popular president for sure, but based on what AI said, the man was actually pretty solid. Oh wait, that reminds me why the term Western Hemisphere has been triggering me lately. Trump used it after capturing Maduro. They even came up with the term Donroe Doctrine. You know, Donald plus Monroe. So genius. Anyway, 10 presidents down, and now it's getting interesting. Because if a president's not in the top 10, but mid-tier, there's going to be more criticism than praise. So here we go, number 11. Number 11. James Madison, father of the Constitution. That title alone should put him higher, but his actual presidency was a mess. The War of 1812 was poorly planned, badly executed, and the British literally burned down the White House while he was in office. His own capital was on fire. That's embarrassing no matter how you spin it. But zoom out, and this man's contribution to America is enormous. He wrote the Bill of Rights, he co-authored the Federalist Papers, the entire framework of how the government works came out of his brain. He was a better architect than operator. Incredible at designing the machine, mediocre at driving it. If you're grading the presidency alone, he's mid. If you're grading total impact on the country, he's top 5. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the dumbest wars in history. Britain was just messing with American ships because it was fighting Napoleon. Then Napoleon fell and the root cause disappeared, but they kept on fighting anyway. In the end, both of the countries just decided to go back to pre-war conditions. Like, what even was the point? But still, burning the White House, that's pretty impressive and embarrassing at the same time. Definitely a big part of history, though. Okay, let's see who we've got up next. Number 12. John Adams. The most thankless presidency in American history. Sandwiched between Washington and Jefferson, two icons, and basically forgotten. But this man kept the country out of war with France when everyone around him was screaming for it. The quasi-war could have destroyed the young republic, and Adams chose diplomacy over glory. That took guts. He also appointed John Marshall as Chief Justice, arguably the most important judicial appointment ever made. But then there's the Alien and Sedition Acts. He literally signed laws making it illegal to criticize the government. The guy who helped write the case for independence turned around and criminalized free speech. That's a brutal contradiction. Lost re-election to Jefferson, left the White House in the middle of the night before the inauguration, bitter and humiliated. History has been kinder to him than voters were. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really know how much about him, and yeah, being sandwiched between Washington and Jefferson, that's a tough spot. I actually have nothing to add here, so let's just move on to the next one. Number 13. Ulysses S. Grant. Massively underrated for decades, and history is finally catching up. This man crushed the Confederacy, then as president went to war against the KKK when nobody else would touch it, signed the Civil Rights Act of 1871, sent federal troops to protect black voters in the South, and prosecuted thousands of Klansmen. He wanted Reconstruction to actually work. The rap on him has always been corruption in his administration. And yeah, there was plenty, but most of it was people around him, not him personally. He was too trusting, not too crooked. A better man than he was a politician. History buried him unfairly for a century, and he deserves this spot. The first thing that really comes to mind is, why did it say the people around him were corrupt, but not him? So then I looked it up, and yeah, that actually checks out. After his presidency, he got scammed by his business partner and ended up dying of throat cancer while racing to finish his memoirs just to leave something behind for his family. Well, that was pretty depressing. Okay, let's see who's next. Number 14. John F. Kennedy. The most romanticized president in history, and honestly, a lot of it is the assassination. Dying young turns you into a myth, but strip away Camelot and there's still real substance. He stared down nuclear annihilation during the Cuban Missile Crisis and chose negotiation over the general screaming to bomb Cuba. That alone might have saved civilization. Started the Peace Corps, pushed the space race, and began laying groundwork for civil rights before LBJ finished the job. But he also greenlit the Bay of Pigs disaster, escalated in Vietnam before it became LBJ's nightmare, and his personal life was a circus. 3 years in office, more legacy than most get in 8, but also more myth than most deserve. Yeah, I keep forgetting he was only in office for 3 years, and still became one of the most important figures of the 20th century. Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure that some of you actually remember that day, so tell everyone down in the comments what it was like, what you felt, what the news coverage looked like, all of it. It's always interesting to hear from someone who experienced it firsthand. Okay, number 15 is next, and let's see who we've got. Number 15, Bill Clinton, the most talented political animal of his generation who couldn't get out of his own way. Economy was roaring, budget surplus, lowest unemployment in decades, wages actually rising for everyone, NAFTA reshaped trade, welfare reform, love it or hate it was bold. On paper, one of the most successful domestic presidencies in modern history, and then he threw it all into a dumpster over an intern and lied about it under oath. Got impeached, not for the affair, but for being arrogant enough to think that he could lie to everyone's face and charm his way out. Without the scandal, he's probably top 10. With it, he's the guy who proved that brilliance and self-destruction can live in the same brain. Yeah, I mean, that guy got impeached for lying under oath, but you lie in court and that's all history remembers. Meanwhile, others can lie left, right, and center at press conferences, on Truth Social, and interviews, and just get away with it. I mean, it is pretty hypocritical, don't you think? I mean, I guess it does depend on what the meaning of the word is. Okay, let's find out who's next. Number 16, George H.W. Bush. One term and done, but that one term was stacked. Managed the end of the Cold War without a shot fired. The Soviet Union collapsed on his watch and he didn't gloat, didn't provoke, just navigated it smoothly. That restraint probably prevented chaos. Gulf War was textbook, clear objective, international coalition, got in, got out. Something his son clearly didn't learn from. Signed the Americans with Disabilities Act, which quietly changed millions of lives. But he killed his own re-election with 4 words. Read my lips, no new taxes, then raise them. Voters don't forgive broken promises. Better president than people gave him credit for, just awful at campaigning. Just one broken promise? Sorry guys, but I can't help but compare this to what's happening right now. We've got a guy who started breaking promises on day 1. What happened to ending the war in Ukraine in 24 hours? The booming economy? No new wars? How much did Mexico pay for the wall, by the way? Not one single peso. But back to Bush. It's crazy that he got cooked over just one broken promise. Okay, Bush Sr. at number 16. Now let's see who's at 17. Number 17, Jimmy Carter. The best ex-president in American history and a mediocre actual president. That's the brutal truth. Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt. Genuine historic achievement. Pushed human rights as foreign policy when nobody else cared. Installed solar panels on the White House roof in 1979, but the job ate him alive. Iran hostage crisis humiliated the country for 444 days, and he looked helpless. Economy was a disaster. Stagflation, gas lines, malaise. He went on TV and basically told Americans their attitude was the problem. It's not leadership, that's a therapist. Voters fired him in a landslide for Reagan. Then he spent the next 45 years building houses for poor people and monitoring elections worldwide. Better human than president. Yeah, hard to find a better human being out of all the US presidents, really. That guy was out there building houses with his own bare hands well into the 90s, and his foundation basically wiped out some disease in Africa. Went from like millions of cases to almost zero. But as a president, yeah, I mean, 17th feels about right. Okay, who's next? Number 18, Gerald Ford. The only president nobody voted for. Never won a presidential election, never even won a vice presidential election. Got both jobs by default because the guys above him were crooks. And honestly, he did fine. Took over after Nixon's resignation when the country was in a full-blown trust crisis and kept things from spiraling. But then he pardoned Nixon and that was it. Career over. Voters never forgave him. He said it was to help the country heal and move on. Maybe he was right. Decades later, even some critics came around on it, but at the time it looked like a backroom deal. Decent man, steady hands, impossible situation. History's been kinder to him than the ballot box was.
Whoa, what's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 40.
I was even charged, right? Oh, and by the way, if not for that move, he would have almost certainly beaten Jimmy Carter in the next election. The gap was tiny, and the guy basically sacrificed his own political career for something that he thought was right, and most people agree with him now. Okay, Gerald Ford, number 18. Let's see who's next. Number 19, John Quincy Adams. Brilliant man, terrible politician, possibly the highest IQ to sit in the Oval Office. Spoke 7 languages, served as diplomat across Europe, negotiated the Treaty of Ghent, basically crafted the Monroe Doctrine as Secretary of State. Then he became president and it all fell apart. Won through a corrupt bargain in the House when no candidate got enough electoral votes, and Jackson's people never let him forget it. Couldn't get Congress to do anything because half of them hated how he got there. 1 term, humiliated, but there's the beautiful part. He went back to Congress afterward and spent 17 years fighting against slavery on the House floor. Most presidents retire to their farms. He went back into the trenches. More admirable than successful.